Get out your handkerchiefs and prepare to feel inspired as shit. Because this episode, we're inviting devout listener and fellow weirdo Priscilla into the pod loft. And by golly, can she string a motivational sentence together better than we ever could. In part 1, Priscilla dives into her ADHD diagnosis journey and all the ways it's changed her life so far, her ADHD strengths and needs, and how her neurofibromatosis, a comorbidity of ADHD, impacted her growing up. We're also talking Lil Accomplishments, pet nutrition, addiction, and whatever else pops into our quirky little brains. Next week, we're getting silly with Segs in part 2. But for now, come join the first half of our wonderful conversation with Priscilla, where she'll give you a much-needed positive reframe on your ADHD traits and inspire you to turn your dreams into goals, whether you want to or not.
They said that we'd grow out of it. Well, the joke's on them, that's just our brains. We're eccentric, loud, and stubborn, and most of our clothing is covered in stains. It's not a deficit of attention, there's just too much to think about. So if executive dysfunction becomes a little too much, if you forgot why you came in this room, or you're hypersensitive to touch, then put on your seamless socks and come join our little flock. Bitches stimming together, we're weirds of a feather, weirds of a feather.
I'm coming off a rough week at the hospital, so I'm like wildly dysregulated. So I've been stimming a bunch.
Yep.
Driving Grace insane, but.
And with that, here we go.
Here we go. I wish I had a warm-up question, but I feel like that's a good
first,
warm-up.
should we, first let me introduce the podcast. How about that?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Let's start with that. Okay, welcome to Weirds of a Feather, an ADHD-Adjacent podcast. I'm your host, Grace.
And I'm your host, Kristen.
And today we have a very special guest with us.
It's a special guest for a special episode.
Yes, Priscilla. Do you want to say hi?
Hey, everybody. How you doing? I don't know why I just asked how everyone's doing.
All right, and now we wait for the response.
Yep, they'll respond in the polls.
Yes.
How are you doing? Good or bad? We'll take the poll question.
Let us know. Priscilla, we are psyched to have you join us, and you are our first guest who isn't like either related to us or like in our immediate friend group, which is exciting.
Romantically connected,
yes,
or friendship
grew up together.
Friendship connected.
Yeah. So how does that feel? Does that make you nervous, or do you feel like pretty confident in like, I got this?
Well, first of all, I feel honored. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
And honestly, I thought I was going to be nervous because I don't normally do stuff like this, but really not. So I'm just super stoked to be here.
You seem pretty cool and collected.
And I do apologize if my dog starts barking.
Oh,
that's
please. You've heard the podcast of my dog interrupting us.
Which may happen this episode too.
Yeah, she's
usually once an episode
today.
Yeah.
Yes. I know it's like a lot to have you like give us an elevator pitch of just like who you are and what your deal is, but like
maybe how you found out about us.
Yeah. And
because it all comes back to me.
Yes. Okay. How did you find out about us? How'd you join our flock? And I guess, who you are and kind of what your deal is.
All right. So I am Priscilla, and I got my ADHD diagnosis last May. Ooh, and I actually found out or started questioning whether or not I have ADHD I was actually listening to Tracy's show. And I was a regular of listening to her show every single week. And then you came on the show. And I was just like, this sounds like a great show. So I started listening. And honestly, it's just like every single Thursday, I keep waiting for it to air. And I'm just
oh, shit.
Immediately draw something.
I will buy you a new fidget.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. It's okay. I broke a fidget.
Oh, damn it. All right. Yeah,
that was a nice one. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. And
she was gushing about us, Kristen.
I feel bad. Sorry.
The first episode I listened, and even the theme song, the whole like seamless socks, I'm just like, oh my God, that's me. So I was hooked right away, and just a devout listener now.
Oh, that means so much. Oh, we're so glad to have you in our flock. And it was very brave of you to reach out to us and say, like, I have this topic I could talk about on the podcast and I would love to come on. Like that, I feel like all the guests we've had on so far, we've kind of had to like not drag on, but
no, like, it was a drag on.
Yeah, I mean,
and they're like, I don't know.
Like, I'm nervous. And you were just like, yes, let's do this. Like, I love that. I love that you just like came in with this. I'm confident and I want to do this and come on the show. And yeah, we're just like so psyched to have you here and so psyched that you reached out. And I'm glad I could hook you when I was on Tracy's show. Cause not that I thought we would have like we did get a lot of followers from that.
But most of our followers are from that.
A good
solid chunk.
Yes.
And the rest are from the hospital I work at.
But it's funny that although thousands and thousands of people have probably listened to that episode, we've gotten like a few hundred, but it's like, we're definitely niche.
Yeah.
So the ones that like we hook with our song and our weirdness, I guess.
Our song in our hearts.
Yeah, our song in our hearts. Those are like very much our people. And
no, absolutely. And anytime since I got my diagnosis, I've made so many friends with ADHD, and I'm always like, "Hey, have you heard this podcast yet?" And I'm just telling everybody about you guys.
Free marketing right there.
Thank you, Priscilla. Yeah. So how have you been able to?
Wait a minute.
Oh, well, I just wanted to ask real quick how you've been able to connect with other ADHDers, and then we're gonna do.
We got to do little accomplishments.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting carried away. All right,
I know, because I know once we start, we're not going to stop.
You're right. All right, save it, Priscilla.
Okay.
God,
hold on to that thought.
All right,
let's go. Can we do the song for little accomplishments?
Oh, did you want to do a question, or are we warmed up?
I'm warmed up.
All right, you warm, Priscilla?
I'm pretty warmed up.
All right, we're all toasty. So yeah, maybe we should do the little accomplishments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know this? Are you familiar with the song, Priscilla?
I am.
Okay. Little accomplishments, but big in our hearts. That's perfect. It was like a round.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, we probably have a little bit of a lag.
That's okay.
I do have a confession to make. So I listen to all of my podcasts in 1.5 times speed.
I understand that.
Yeah.
We're not offended.
So like for the last 3 or 4 episodes before I knew I was coming on here, I listened to like regular speed just so that I'm like, why are they talking so slow?
All right, we did. I think the song is good, right?
The song's good. And now we are on to little accomplishments.
Yes. All right. Priscilla, do you want to start with your little accomplishment? Why don't we start with yours?
Sure. All right.
What have you accomplished?
This is huge for me because this happens all the time, but I finally cleared the 100 plus taps that I had on Chrome on my phone.
Ooh, oh my
God. Nice.
And I deleted over 64,000 emails from my Gmail account.
Whoa.
What? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Does your phone run so much faster now?
The mail's not that bad because that doesn't really affect it too much, but I was at like 98% storage on my Gmail.
Oh, jeez.
And like I had emails dating back to like 2014. So I was like, it's about time to delete those. And
you never know when you're going to need them.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe I'll need to know what I bought back in 2014.
No.
But fun fact, when you have over 99 tabs open on Chrome on your phone, you get a little smiley face.
Ooh.
Oh.
Smiley face of shame, or is it an accomplishment to make? I feel like that's a feat.
And like you're doing some
let's just say it's an accomplishment.
Yeah, it's called an accomplishment. Well, congratulations. That is huge. That's amazing. Wow. I can't even imagine deleting that many emails.
No.
I had to Google it and how to do it really quickly because or else I would have just it was like a mass delete, but still I was very proud of myself for doing that.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, I think I have like 40,000 and sometimes I'll go through like a little hyper focus for an hour and get rid of things, but I just feel like it feels insurmountable. Like what's the point? I have so many.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm really proud of you, and I hope someday I can do the same, follow in your footsteps.
Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. Kristen, why don't you tell us what your little accomplishment was?
Yeah, as we know, I've recently joined the Peloton cult.
Yes.
And I've been taking the baby classes. You can actually find me on Peloton. I'm Kay Stanhop. We can follow each other. But I bumped myself up from a regular beginner class to a 30-minute advanced beginner class this morning.
Wow.
And boy, do I feel it. Yeah. My buns are toasty and my thighs are weak.
But they'll be stronger by morning. Maybe.
If I can walk, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a big accomplishment.
Congrats.
Woo woo. Grace, what is your little accomplishment?
What is my little accomplishment? Oh, that's right. So Ian and I have been trying to figure out this friggin' color for the living room for the longest time. We wanted to paint it a bold color. We had to find the exact right tone, and we finally picked one, made a goddamn decision, and bought the paint for it, and Ian and I painted the first coat of it this morning. So I'm proud of that. Finally did it.
I love the color. It looks so good. It looks so cozy.
Thank you. It's like a deep, like,
plum.
Burgundy
plum. A plurbandy.
There's like not really a great word for it, I feel like.
What's the color name?
It's gooseberry.
No, it's gooseberry.
Okay.
Yeah, color of a gooseberry.
Yeah, of course.
That common berry that we all know and love.
Yeah. I always cry every time I try to decorate, so I can't wait to start that journey with Christopher. Yeah. Yeah,
well, we had a disappointment with trying to paint the kitchen green and bought all the paint for it. And
disappointment for you.
It. Yeah, gave the paint to Kristen.
I'm going to use that paint.
Her aesthetic and not mine. I'm more of a gothic jewel tone.
And I am not.
Yes.
Well, I like it. It's just not for my house.
Yeah. But yeah, I did it. I finally painted a coat, and I love it, and I love the color, and I'm very happy with it. And I'm happy with myself, honestly.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
It's hard. It's really hard to paint yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And especially if you're worried it's like not going to come out right or not going to be the way you like it. It's hard to like get yourself to do it.
It's like the trust the process.
Yes.
You know?
I cannot trust the process.
Well, and also you have to do the whole like taping everything and just, it's a lot.
We're playing it wild. We're playing fast.
I don't think any tape was used.
No, I was just edging. Because even if I do tape it, I don't know, somehow it leaks under there still. So I'm like, I might as well just freehand it. Although the sloppier parts were Ian. I'm a better
you have to
linesman.
repaint your ceiling.
Oh, well, yeah. That part. Yeah, that was Ian. But we're going to touch up with white. But all right. Yeah, I did it, though. Go me.
Awesome.
All right.
Now to the meat of our podcast.
Yeah, I was thinking, should we do like a little transition?
Sure.
Into
I love the transitions. I just, every time, I'm so unprepared.
I'm always unprepared. Priscilla, do you have any transition ideas?
I don't know. I don't think I do.
Nothing. Well, in some ways, is this not a transition right here?
This is
probably
meta transition.
What seems like our longest transition.
No, it just feels long in the moment. It'll play out seamlessly, and people will be like, "Wow,
what a great transition that they did."
Yep.
When in actuality, no.
All right. And welcome back from that transition. Let's get into the meat.
Into the meat.
Boom, boom. It is the meat. I think.
Oh no!
What we came up with last.
I hate that.
Well, it is what it is.
Because I don't like Arby's.
Oh, I don't either. That's why I think.
Can we say it's vegan meat?
Ooh.
So I can feel a little bit better.
Are you vegan?
I am vegan, almost 15 years.
Wow.
Whoa.
Oh my God. That's impressive.
That is impressive.
Thanks.
I could never have the willpower.
I
honestly
don't know how to cook, so I feel like that it requires a lot of like knowledge.
Yeah, I feel like you have to put a lot more work in, right? I'm guessing.
Not really. It's honestly super easy. I prepped our dinner before this, so that way when my husband gets home, all he has to do is stick it in the oven. It took me 15 minutes to prep a meatloaf.
Oh wow!
How do you make a meatloaf?
Chopped onions, some TVP, which is like basically textured vegetable protein, which is like crumbly, like those like Boca crumbles and Beyond crumbles.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
With like seasonings, a little bit of breadcrumbs in there, some flour, and then just stick it in the oven.
That sounds delicious.
It's really great.
I'm coming over.
Yeah, I guess it's not necessarily just about being a vegan is difficult. It's like just cooking meals in general is difficult, and I don't do it. Yeah,
so super difficult.
Yeah, if I can't like grab a Hot Pocket sometimes.
Oh no, absolutely. You have to have your safe foods.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. All right. Are we into this meatless? Let's call it the meatless meatloaf.
Meatless. I love it.
Of the episode.
The meatless meatloaf of the episode. Yeah.
Which is ADHD Learning Corner.
Yeah. We were hoping, Priscilla, you could. I think you already kind of touched upon it in the very beginning of the episode, but if you could kind of chat about, your beginnings with ADHD, like when were you diagnosed and how was that process like? Were you always suspicious or did something suddenly happened and you're like, maybe this is ADHD? And then how was the whole like diagnosis process?
All right, answer those 12 questions.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I printed out the little outline he gave me, and I had to put little bullet notes because I know I would forget something if I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I was
hear ya.
diagnosed back in May of 2022,
Oh,
Nice.
and I went to therapy. I started going to therapy again for the first time in a pretty long time because
Ooh,
honestly, I was like,
nice.
am I autistic? I'm like,
Hmm.
and still to this day, I'm like, maybe there is because it's all a spectrum.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
once I started going, and honestly, because of social media, even doing just a lot of research and reading a whole bunch of things, I slowly started to read more about ADHD and especially ADHD in women.
Hmm.
And the more I read about it, and that's when I started listening to Tracy's show, and it was just like this epiphany. And I'm like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I have. This explains my entire childhood, my entire life, like even as a teenager, as an adult in my 20s, and to now. And I'm just like, wow, like, I don't know how no one caught on really early, but then like learning more, I'm like, oh, I was masking my entire life.
Been there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's the hardest one. And I think once I got my diagnosis, I really started coming to like who I truly am and getting comfortable with myself, the way my brain thinks, the way I act. And it truly was a really freeing experience for me because it kind of just allowed me to recognize that the way I feel doesn't make me weird, doesn't make me like anything, but it just makes me who I am. And it allowed me to kind of just be able to adapt my life and what I do on a daily basis and just recognize my traits that ADHD is the cause of a lot of them. And it was just a huge self-acceptance thing for myself.
Nice.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's beautiful.
Oh, and on the whole diagnosis thing is I remember with my therapist, she wanted me to do the DSM test. And I am not a fan of those tests at all because back when I was in school, like either I would get a school project done the day it was assigned or wait until the very last second to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when I was taking all the DSM tests, like I wanted to be like, I got to ace these, I got to do perfect. And after I took all the tests, she was like, yeah, no, you don't have ADHD. And I'm just like,
You're
but, like,
hyper focusing on the test. Yeah.
exactly. I spent 4 hours taking these tests in one day. And she kept saying, do you want to
God.
take a break? And I'm like, no, I'm good. And so I was
Jeez.
just trying to do the best that I could. And eventually, like after talking to her, and something I'll talk about with you guys is I have a disorder called neurofibromatosis. It's very long to pronounce and difficult, so we can call it NF for short.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Appreciate it.
yeah, and there's a 50 to 60% chance that if you do have NF, that you have either ADHD or a different type of learning disability.
Oh,
Interesting.
So it is a comorbidity.
Oh, we were talking about this before the episode of whether or not there was like a comorbidity.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is why I'm super surprised that when I was younger that my parents didn't recognize any of my traits or like go get me tested for it. But I guess it's that whole I was masking my entire life. And so they didn't really find a reason to. But now it all makes sense.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I also think that like when you're a child, especially if you're masking, ADHD is the standard for like diagnoses are these like hyperactive boys. And I think if you're not I think it's very hard to be diagnosed as if you're female. And especially like when you were like the age of a child, that was like the heyday of ADHD is just in little boys and people thought you grew out of it anyway and not a lot was understood or known about it. So I think there's been some, what we hope, I guess, like kind of growth in the medical community of understanding it. But I think back in the day, like when you were younger, it definitely they're probably just looking for those hyperactive little boys and seeing that. So they probably, I'd love to give your parents and your healthcare providers the benefit of the doubt is that like maybe we just didn't know enough about it.
But it's also twofold where you can still, be disappointed that,
yes,
you know,
yes.
there
You can
were
also,
these
exactly.
especially if you have a comorbidity.
Right.
You know, like with Elena, our guest that we had on a bit back, she grew up with Tourette's. And so that's like an obvious comorbidity that I feel like they were looking into that anyways. And then she did get diagnosed with ADHD.
But she's also
in middle school.
Very hyperactive.
Yeah, I guess that's
and destructive.
True. Okay, Priscilla, I want to know what you were like in school, but then we're going to have you explain NF after, but now that we've brought it up, I'm very interested to hear about it. So I just want to hear about how you were in school, and then maybe you can kind of give us a little spiel about NF.
So it's probably better to start with the NF because that definitely like has a lot to do with how I was in school.
Perfect.
With the neurofibromatosis, I was diagnosed at the age of 2.
Oh, wow.
And at first, like the first doctor, my parents, because this was back in 1991, so a very long time ago. So not much was known about this disorder then. And the first doctor my parents took me to swore that I had elephantitis. And my parents were freaking out because I had a tumor growing on my leg and a tumor growing in my arm. And then they wanted to get a second opinion, so they took me to another doctor, and that's when the doctor properly diagnosed me with this disorder. And so with this disorder, benign tumors grow under the skin, and a lot of the times they're inoperable. And then there's something called the plexiform neurofibromas, which grow from nerves, and they're pretty complicated to remove, so oftentimes you can't even remove them. And when I was about 6 years old, when I was 2 and I got diagnosed, I was actually given a leg brace. So from the ages of 2 to 18, I wore a full leg brace from the bottom of my foot up to the top of my thigh, and I couldn't participate in sports. So I've never taken a gym class in my life, and I think that's where that like lack of hyperactivity came in because I wasn't running around. I couldn't run around. So as a kid, most of my energy came out more of just like in the way that I spoke. Like I would never shut up as a kid. And I would talk everyone's ear off. And I was also very, very imaginative. So I would set up my Beanie Babies around in a circle, and everybody like had a husband or a wife and just like creating these elaborate stories with all of my Beanie Babies. So I think a lot of that had to do with me having the ADHD and just like this super hyperactive mind. And I'm a combined type. So I have the super hyperactive mind, not necessarily physically, but I'm also can be very inattentive. So I think that lack of being able to be mobile as a kid definitely didn't help the situation of me getting that diagnosis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no. And like since from the ages of 6 to 14, I think I had over 15 surgeries.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like now I have a plate in one leg. I had a bone transplant when I was 6 years old. I have 2 rods in my other leg. And so I was definitely confined physically.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
a medical
absolutely.
question. The bone transplant, was it a bone marrow transplant or a bone transplant?
Literally bone transplant. So they took bone from my left leg, which was my healthy leg, and I broke my leg when I was 6, and they were like, you know what? Let's just remove that tumor. And the bone was also bowed. So like, I couldn't walk straight. And they were like, let's just remove that unhealthy bone and replace it with healthy bone. And so they literally just like took a chunk of bone from my tibia from my left leg and put it into my right leg.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
Wild.
Yeah. And this was back in the 90s. And I'm just like, science was even wild back then.
Yeah. Jeez.
I have more questions, but we'll be here forever.
Yes.
I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look it up later because I'm interested in it. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna look it up later. Okay.
It's fascinating. No, it's truly fascinating. And so with me having the NF as a kid in school, I was definitely very quiet. Because I wore the leg brace, definitely self-conscious growing up because I was different than everybody else. And so that kind of just led me to really be the lone wolf always in school. Elementary school, I had a decent amount of friends. I loved school, and I still do love learning to this day. But once I reached high school, I honestly started to hate school just because of, one, the people there who were all just really mean.
Oh,
and
Yeah, I bet.
two, just learning to the curriculum that my state wanted to was not one that I was adapting to that well. And I got decent grades and everything, but it was always a struggle for me. Like, I had to bust my ass to get really good grades. And then I realized now that that's not normal. Like, to a lot of people, they're just like, oh, like, it's so easy to remember all these calculus equations or chemistry things. And
yes, I relate to that so hard.
it was such a struggle for me to try and get B's. But once I started learning like the things I wanted to learn, and dropped out of college 4 times, I don't remember.
Nice.
Yeah, at least you're consistent, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And then once I just really started to learn the things I want to learn, I realized that I still do love to learn. But as a kid, I struggled with it because it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to be doing or how I could learn.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because it sounds like you do go into very deep hyper focuses. And when you're in school, especially elementary school, but then middle school too, you're always switching classes, switching subjects, blah, blah, blah. And you aren't really given that space to like find something you really love and then like dive into that for a few hours or a half a day or whatever.
You're also a No Child Left Behind kid. So they were like taught, we're all educated to take a test basically, because that's the American school system, folks.
Yeah, it's just like not
it's
set up for our
awful.
brains.
Definitely not set up for ADHD brains.
Yeah.
But also not really No Child Left Behind was like detrimental for all brains.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Where were we? I feel like you were on a roll. Did I interrupt you?
Because you, no, we were talking about how once you do love learning, but you just had to figure out what you liked about learning, which subjects you liked.
Yeah. So what subjects do you like? Like what sparked your interest? And I guess what are you doing now?
So back in school, when I was in high school, I remember my senior year, because I had taken most of like the core classes they needed me to take. It was kind of just like I could take whatever I wanted to. So I remember I took a zoology class, which I loved.
Cool. Nice.
And like I had to take basic English, and there was an economics class I had to take, but all of my other classes were art classes. Nice. So my senior year was great just because of the fact that I was just taking photography class, taking a ceramics class, fine arts. So I really had fun with that, and that made it pretty easy to finish off high school. But then I went to college for photography for a couple of years and realized that I had trouble connecting to people and making those connections that you need in order to succeed in that industry. So I dropped out of that. And then I went back to school a few times for elementary education to become a teacher. And I got up until like I had 2 semesters left, and I had a really shitty breakup and moved back to a different state. And I was like, this is a 2.5-hour commute each way to get to college. And I'm like, you know what? I can't keep doing this. So I dropped out once before I broke up with my ex at the time. And then I went back to school and was commuting for a 1.5 years, I think. And then eventually I was just like, I can't keep doing this. And also goes back to like the whole school system is pretty fucked up.
Yep.
Am I allowed to curse?
Oh,
please.
Okay. Curse as much as you want.
Okay. And I just realized how fucked up the school system is, especially because I grew up in the New York, Connecticut area. And just like the whole teaching by the book and all the state exams that you have to teach. And being like, I went to a few classes where I was doing student teaching, and just to see the kids who either had autism or ADHD or any sort of learning disability, how one teacher punished the kid for not being able to sit still and put him in the corner. And I was just like, I can't do this. It's just like, I know that I would be able to make a difference in teaching children, but there's rules that I would have to follow, and it's just not something that I can see myself doing. So I dropped out again. And then this past March, I actually started studying to become a clinical pet nutritionist.
Oh, cool.
And so that's what I've been doing for almost a year now, is to
get out.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And I'm doing that at my own pace. It's like a 2.5-year program online. And I'm given all the material I need to read and like the homework I need to do. So I'm really working at my own pace right now, which is exactly what I need to do.
Nice. And it sounds like you're really self-motivated for this subject specifically. So it sounds like you're able to kind of like keep yourself going with the coursework.
Yeah. And also I kind of want to just prove to myself that I can finish something school related.
Oh,
so I'm just like,
you can.
We believe in you. You just have to find the right thing.
You just have to find the right thing. Exactly.
Yeah. And with teaching, you know, if you're not like die hard passionate about it, pull the plug. Pull the plug. Like,
yeah.
I also feel like teaching, you have to be like extremely organized.
Yes, I was always the flustered one, and it's very obvious when you have ADHD and other teachers don't. It's so much executive functioning, especially being a classroom teacher.
No,
I mean, I was a speech therapist, so I had like a big caseload, but I never had 35 kids all at once looking at me.
Right.
And I'm sure you still have to do a bunch of paperwork and just like
so much
regularly just progress updates. And that can be so much to handle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Constant work. Yeah. Well, I think it sounds like you're on the right track now, and it sounds like you're following a passion, and that's super cool. So are you going to be like a dog nutritionist afterwards?
Cat.
Or cat. Sorry.
Cat.
Like, do you,
because
what kind of job
I'm
you
your
do
first
with that?
customer. I call dibs.
Yeah, I want to know I kind of want to book you as well.
Well, that's definitely something I want to help people on the side. But the big thing that I'm doing with what I'm studying is I'm actually starting my own business with it. And I will be selling treats, like dog treats. But I'm taking everything I'm learning on what is good for a dog and eventually cats and kind of creating this I want to create a whole empire, essentially, of not just pet treats eventually, but I have a friend who's training to become a dog trainer. She's also neurodivergent. And so I'm encouraging her, hey, you got to finish your training so that you can then join and just be part of this giant empire of taking care of animals in a way that isn't like going to the store and buying Purina and some food that's shitty for your dog, or just like finding
how
a
bad
shitty
is
trainer.
Purina? Is it bad?
It's not great.
Well, our sponsors are going to be very offended. Wait till Purina hears this.
I'm just, as someone who just bought like a big thing of Purina wet food for a little kitten, little Jean Ralphio.
If it's wet food, then that's better. Wet food is the best kind of food you can be giving your animal.
Okay.
But with like everything that I've been learning is I started making my dog her own homemade food, and kind of what triggered it is we got her when she was 8 weeks old? She was either 8 or 12 weeks old. I forget. And she constantly had stomach issues, was always throwing up. We were taking her to the emergency vet once a month at least.
Oh my God.
And then I was like, I got to do something about this. So I changed her diet. I make her homemade food now. And she's the healthiest dog in the world.
I can't even make food for myself.
I know. Yeah, what do you make her? I dog sat for a dog once where the guy would make his dog like homemade meatballs and put vitamins in there and everything.
Oh, so I make her 2 weeks worth of food at a time. So that way I'm not in the kitchen every single day. It does take me like 3 hours to do.
Wow.
But it's one of those things that I'm passionate about. So it's something that I don't mind putting the time and effort into. But her latest meal was rice with chicken. And in the chicken, there's like chicken hearts, chicken liver. And this is all coming from a vegan. So I'm over here cooking her food. Right. There's a bunch of vegetables, fruits that she can eat, kale, calcium, all that stuff. So
I'm like getting hungry right now.
I know.
Is that bad?
Yeah, I kind of want your dog's food.
It's 100% edible for humans. There's nothing in there that's just for dogs. So every time I make one of her foods, I'm like, this smells really, really good. I would eat this if I wasn't vegan.
What a bougie dog. I want that for my dog.
Yeah, and my cat eats raw.
Okay. You and I need to talk about this later, but like, because Snickers has she's on this special food because she has a lot of food allergies, and it has like extreme reactions to the other cat's food, so we have to separate them. But I was kind of thinking about like, what if we just put everybody on? I know grain-free is really big in the cat world, the grain-free diet.
Yeah.
But I just do what my vet told me, do this certain kibble, so she gets a certain kibble, and we've been okay since.
Listen, I can say so much about feeding your cats dry kibble, so I won't really get into it, but we should definitely talk about it.
Okay.
Yes.
She gets wet food too. She's get a lot. She also gets like a Prozac once a day too. So we split it. No, we're kidding.
My cat's on Prozac too.
Oh, cute. Maybe you can make like a dog and cat like cookbook with
that
different
would be.
meals.
I would totally. I'd buy that.
That would be awesome. Yeah, there's so many ideas like stemming out from this business that I'm starting.
That's really cool. Okay, so when are you starting and what's the name of it? We'll have to do, I was going to say a fake ad, but this time it'd be a real ad.
It'd be a real ad.
It'd be kind of fake.
And slash a follow-up episode.
Us doing it, but it'd be a real, it would be a real ad.
Well, it's called Ro. I named it after my dog. Her name is Rory. Kind of after Rory Gilmore.
Yeah. Oh, okay, wait. Ro as in R-O-E?
R-O.
R-O. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the little, I don't know the name of it, but there's that little like accent. That's the straight line. So it's R-O with the accent on top of it, period.
No, umlaut the dots. You don't know. It's
I don't know.
You don't need to know.
Straight line.
And it's a slow progress. Like I still work full time and I try to work on it whenever I can. I started working with a business mentor, which has been really huge and helpful for me because I know there's a lot of stuff that I don't know how to do. And so working with him has been immensely helpful. We meet once a month and he kind of just tells me, where are you now? And just gives me the next steps to do so that I'm kind of working at a reasonable timeline. My goal is that by early 2024 is that this is going to be my full-time career.
Nice.
That's awesome. I believe in you.
Exciting. I know. I believe in you too.
So exciting.
Thanks. It's one of those things where like once I did get my diagnosis, it opened up so many doors for me and made me realize that nothing is impossible. Motivational speech right here. And like it's just been amazing to feel accomplished and recognize that if I didn't finish all my tasks that I wanted to do that week or even that month, that it's okay, that I am not necessarily rushing through this.
I'm so inspired by your story. I know you talked about therapies, but are you for ADHD specific? Are there any like therapies or treatments or anything that you have tried that's worked or that hasn't worked, or what was the process of like treatment for you?
Yeah. So I am currently seeing a new therapist, not the one who diagnosed me. With her, it was more of behavioral therapy, so DBT. And while it really helped me be able to come out of my shell more, because something like this is not, I would never imagine doing something like this a couple months ago.
Oh, really?
But, oh yeah, I used to be like up until a couple months ago, I was super shy. I avoided talking to people. I never would have imagined going on a podcast, but I feel like she allowed me to be able to come out of my shell, and that's amazing. And I did try EMDR once, and that was just did not work out for me because
really?
That was pre-ADHD diagnosis. So that wasn't even on my radar yet. So I'm wondering now if it would help. But right now I am seeing a therapist, and they are a trauma therapist because of just all the shit that happened in life. Because life can suck. Yeah. And so that is really helping me. Regarding ADHD, I don't really do therapy for that. Besides, I do take medication for it. And that has immensely helped me on focusing throughout the day and being able to recognize certain patterns. But overall, I think a lot of it is just talking to other women with ADHD. Like I'm in a Discord group of women with ADHD, constantly on Reddit, and I'm just like listening to you guys and any other podcasts that I can, reading articles online. So that's really where a lot of my ADHD therapy comes from.
Nice.
A community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you're doing a great job of finding that community. Yeah. All right. Oh, we do want to hear, I guess, a couple of the hardest aspects of your ADHD and then also your biggest ADHD strengths.
So I would say I have them all written down. The list is very long, so I will narrow it down to a few.
Let's hear them.
Definitely the RSD for me is pretty bad. And it's also one of the reasons why I am in trauma therapy is just because I have that constant like rejection and that fear of rejection and that holds me back from truly being who I want to be or making genuine connections with people, and also interpreting things the wrong way is something I definitely struggle with. Sensory issues are a huge one for me.
Yeah.
And the biggest one is the auditory, for sure. And I actually work as a dog groomer. And there are days that dogs will be barking all day long, and it just literally just makes me want to chop my own head off by a certain point. And
I don't know how you do that. My dog barking all day, I literally have to go and scream into a pillow.
Yeah.
It's so overwhelming.
Product placement. I got those loop earplugs.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Oh my God, they're incredible. I love them. Yeah. And so you can get a couple different kinds, and they have a new one, but I got the one that's like experience, and it just like doesn't make everything go silent, but it just takes that edge off of everything. And so I wear them at work all day long, and it's just amazing.
Nice. And you probably have to be able to like hear somewhat while you're doing that job, I'm guessing, so you wouldn't be able to just wear like noise canceling headphones.
Exactly. Yeah. So I used to listen to music, but then just that also was that with like that, I needed to hear what was going around me. I needed to listen to the dogs to make sure they're not getting stressed. But once I got those earplugs, they just really kind of just take that edge off and allow me to be able to focus also on what's going on just in front of me, because I would be the kind of person who can pick up every conversation going on around me, even if I'm just working on my own dog on the table, and it would just become overwhelming at times. And then like with sensory issues too, it's a lot of it is textures for me. Like I cannot stand certain texture. I cannot touch cotton balls. They just heave me out. Oh,
I
God.
hear that a lot.
They're squeaky, and it's just like,
they're squeaky.
It gives me the goosebumps.
Like rubbing it to get in on itself. Just the thought of that.
It's
like,
the worst. Yeah, and like
I agree.
Foods too, like textures of foods. I can't do certain foods, so I think that's a huge disadvantage. Not disadvantage, but like just one of those traits that I'm just like, oh God, no. The constant fidgeting. Yeah. The constant fidgeting. I'm always fidgeting, even like when I go to sleep, like my feet have to be fidgeting, and like it can piss my husband off sometimes. It's like, stop moving. And I'm just like, I can't help it. I have to.
Yep.
And I think the other one that I'll mention, this is a huge one because it kind of ties back into my business, is option paralysis. And I think it was last week I was trying to buy these, like, because one of the products I'm going to end up making is going to be animal crackers for dogs. And so I was just like looking up cookie cutters, and I ended up spending 2 hours trying to figure out which cookie cutter I wanted. I just kept clicking.
I think
all
that's
of
time
them.
well spent. Yeah. I don't see any problem with that at all.
I'm happy with the ones I picked out, so that's okay. But like,
there you go.
I could have also spent that time doing something else, but I spent 2 hours trying to pick out one cookie cutter.
I relate to that very much.
Oh, that's too funny.
And then I think there was you asked the other question?
Oh, yeah.
My greatest strengths.
Greatest ADHD strength.
Okay.
To end on a good note.
My crisis mode is, I feel like it's fantastic. So if there is something going on around me, some sort of emergency, I am the first one to just jump in and take action. Kind of a sad story, but last year I was working at another salon, and a dog ended up passing out on the table, and I was salon manager at that time. So the second that I heard that something happened to the dog, I just went straight into action. I am CPR certified for dogs.
I was just about to ask that. That's so cool / Grace, we should learn.
Yes.
I think it's really important to know these things. Even if you don't have kids and you have pets, I think it's super important to know basic first aid for your animals. But I jumped right into action, started doing CPR on this dog, and everyone else around me was kind of just like freaked out about what was going on. And so I ended up with this woman. I'm like, go grab your car. We're going to take your dog to the vet, the closest vet. And unfortunately, the dog did pass away while he was in my lap, and I kept doing CPR on him. But it was one of those situations where like I knew that I had to jump into action and just focus on what was going on. Nothing else around me mattered at that time. And so it was just made me realize that I am so good under crisis. And
That's
then,
a great strength.
yeah. And then I think that another strength is that once I have a goal in mind, I get it done. And it's not necessarily at the pace that I would like to, but it's just, I stopped saying the word dream. Like, I have a dream that one day I'll do this. Instead, I just replace that word with goal now. And it's just like, I have a goal. And so that makes it seem like I can achieve it. And it's not just something that I'm thinking about. And being able to do that allows me to hyperfixate and focus on that situation or that subject in a good way. And
that's a great
it's allowed me
reframe.
to, it's allowed me to start my own business now and just realize that this isn't just a dream. I'm a neurodivergent woman, technically a woman of color because my family immigrated here from Brazil, and I'm a disabled woman. So like, I have all of these things that a lot of people would be like, that's going to hold you back, but I'm not letting any of that hold me back. And it's kind of just, I need to prove a point to everyone that I can make it despite having all of these things.
Can I add another thing that you should be among all these things is a motivational speaker, because I'm so inspired. I feel like I need to do something, with my life. Super inspirational. Like, I think this is great, and I'm so glad you're on our show to talk about, all the hurdles you've overcome.
Yeah, I do love your attitudes about ADHD.
Yeah. Anyone can go through anything. Like, anyone can do anything they want to do as long as they try and realize that there doesn't have to be a time limit on anything that you do. It's just work in a way that works best for you.
I think that's so important for our listeners, because I think they're very much is like, you go to school so you can go to college, go to a career. And then once you get a career, you have to start like house, family, life stuff. And like, that is just not everyone's life plan. That might be like a couple people's life plan, but I think it's never too late to learn. It's never too late to have a career change. It's never too late to do something that you love.
And and on the other hand, I do feel like we also put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be like instantly good at this thing, or instantly have this huge career that we started yesterday and now it's huge. And if we don't reach that, then we're like failures. So yeah, I do feel like one of the most important things we can work on is exactly what you're saying, Priscilla, of like accepting that you're going at your own pace, and it's okay if it's not the pace that we think it should be or that others want it to be, because I feel like that's what gets us to abandon things if we feel like we can't like get it done quickly enough.
Or if we don't like live up to those expectations
that we put on ourselves. And they're crazy. They're like crazy expectations of like, who do I think I am?
And I think was my biggest struggle growing up my entire life. And I know we briefly talked about this in the email I told you guys, but this month I actually have 7 months sober.
Woo!
Congratulations.
Thanks. And I think that growing up, I set these expectations up for myself, and I don't think I can blame anybody but myself for it. But I set up these expectations and thought I had to be a certain person, act a certain way. And that led me to drink and use drugs for a huge portion of my life in order to fit in order to feel like I am part of society. And it got to the point where it was super detrimental to my health and to my mind and just to everything. And I think that getting sober and staying sober has helped me really grow also and accept who I am. Because I would drink, I would do drugs because I didn't love who I was. And I thought that I was weird and that no one's going to accept me. And so once I realized I don't need that, I was able to truly start coming out of my shell. And I honestly love who I am today.
Oh, Priscilla.
I love who you are today.
I know.
Thank you.
You are so inspiring. Like, what a journey. The fact that you were, I mean, we do, I know we kind of talked about like trying to fit all these things into this episode, but Chris and I were chatting about how we do want to kind of do a whole different episode about addiction and substance use within ADHD.
I think I just texted you today, like, of course we can talk about addiction, and I want to, but I feel like we have too much to talk about, and maybe we'd have you on for like another separate episode.
Yes, because I was going to say, I really want to like dive into the subject deeply with you, because the fact that you were able to like quit those things because I just saw a TikTok the other day talking about how with substances for neurodivergent people, we're not really consuming them to get like high the way that people normally think about it. We're kind of doing it to just reach like a feeling of like normalcy almost within ourselves.
Right.
So it's like quitting a substance that you're using all the time to kind of like feel like you can function for the day. It's not like you're quitting getting this exciting high. You're quitting like this thing that's helped you get through every single day.
No, exactly. That's 100% what it was for me. And I would love to be able to talk more about it on another episode if you guys wanted to.
Absolutely.
And
yeah. If you wanted to come back and join us again a little bit down the line and do another episode about that, that would be super cool. We'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that.
Yeah.
I feel like I always say that to ADHDers on the podcast. They're like, I would say literally anything on here, which is how I feel also.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do in order to be able to make true connections with people, is you have to show that vulnerability.
Absolutely. And I do feel like that's why people connect with our podcast, because we are very vulnerable.
We share our highs and our lows.
Yes.
And there's a lot of lows.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
We're honest and raw.
I think that's going to do it for this episode, right? And then, so next week, listeners, we're going to have Priscilla on again to discuss her hobby. Don't tell me yet. I want it to be a surprise.
Yeah, we'll do our just
Segs
episode.
Segs with Priscilla. And and I didn't know, Priscilla, if you had a bird of the day or I have one in preparation.
I do have one. I don't know how to pronounce the second part of the name, so I am going to message that to you guys.
Okay.
Because I do not want to butcher it.
That's fair.
Dyslexia is a thing.
Yeah, I hear that.
Real quick, while you're doing this, I should just say that all the bullshit of follow us on Instagram. Words of a Feather.
Oh, yeah.
Find our, you can email us.
You can get us on all the socials. Watch out for polls. They're posted usually on Mondays. Sometimes no.
Sometimes not.
Sometimes I forget. You can easily remind me. And you can find us on the Facebook group. We got lots of chats going on there, a little pocket of community over a kind of a bigger pocket of community. It's growing. We're most active on Instagram, I would say.
Yeah.
We post a picture that goes along with every episode. And then you can always email us at weirdsofafeather@gmail.com. And do you want to talk about coffee? Buy me.
We have a Buy Me a Coffee account, and you can go to coffee.com. That's ko-fi.com/weirdsofafeather, and throw us like 50 cents or whatever to keep this horse train going.
I'll take a nickel.
Yeah, I would also take a nickel.
And that's totally optional. Any donations go straight back into the podcast because obviously we do this for free.
Yep.
Basically we're just trying to save up money to get a podcast editor.
Yeah, so I don't have
a sound editor.
Yep.
So we can focus more on research and less on sound editing.
Yes.
I do have a question for you guys.
Sure.
Yes.
When's your merch coming out?
Oh my gosh, that's another. Okay. So this is we have lots of goals, not dreams, but goals.
Goals, yes.
Perfect.
And I think, once we get a sound editor, that's another thing we can look into.
Yes, because then I'll have much more time.
More time to set up like an actual official website.
Okay, do you have any merch ideas for us though, Priscilla?
I was thinking some stickers. And I know that question was for Priscilla and not me.
I wasn't asking you.
Well, definitely stickers, because every single one of my water bottles, all like 20 of them, are sticker bombed.
Okay.
But
okay,
you guys need to make hoodies.
Hoodies.
Like hoodies before t-shirts.
Okay.
Okay. That's fair.
Because who doesn't love a good hoodie?
Okay.
I love a good hoodie.
I like a crew neck. Sometimes I feel trapped in a hood.
Or
sometimes you want the hood.
Yeah, I also like
I guess we could do options.
We could have options. Do we have like quotes on them, or what should we do on them?
Be like little, just like woof in the corner.
I feel like they should be a bit weird,
Oh, sure.
Right?
Sure. Sure.
A quote on the back, and then just like, you guys need a logo. You guys need a graphic designer to just like come up with this crazy ass logo for you guys, and then just gonna be a logo with a quote on the back.
That's fair. That's actually a really good idea.
All right.
Yes.
Going on our list of goals.
A list of goals. Yeah. So yes, we definitely want to do that. We want to get a website up. that goes so we can sell merch and stuff, and a Patreon. These are all goals.
That'll all be coming, I feel like, in the next few months.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we think
that's reasonable.
we've got a couple. 2023 is a big year for us.
Oh yeah, hold on to your socks.
Yep.
2023 Wolf is taking over.
Yep.
But before we call out on this one, Priscilla, do you have any social media or
actually
where people can find you?
You should promote your business.
Yeah. What are your socials?
So I don't use much social media. My Instagram is potato socks.
That's right.
And so where that comes from is potatoes are my favorite food. And then toe socks are just an awful concept. So I marry the two together. So we got potato socks.
Love it.
And then I see.
Now you were wondering about potato socks.
Okay. It's all coming together now.
It is.
Gears are turning.
Yeah, it's the weird in me. Like I try to find like weird ways to combine words.
Potato socks. I'm sorry.
I do have an Instagram for my business up. There's only one post right now, but definitely follow it. And as I create my products, and there'll also be tips on there, pet nutrition tips, just in general, dog facts, things like that. And that one is RO_dog treats. So
awesome.
Oh, okay.
We will be following you.
Yep.
We will put that in the show notes so then other people can find that.
So listeners, you can find her.
Yep. Go follow Priscilla and her business Ro.
Awesome.
I'm excited to learn from you.
I know.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
This bird.
So it just looks like willow parmesan.
Yeah.
Who's willow parmesan?
Jean Parmesan.
But there's a T after the P, and I'm just like, I don't know how to say that.
Ptarmigan. I guess in pterodactyl it's PT, right? And you say it as a T, right? So is it ptarmigan?
You might be right. I didn't listen to the call. I literally just Googled weird bird calls.
I love
and
it.
this one came up, so I'm just like, let's just use this one.
All right.
Okay. I've got a video.
Okay. Priscilla, why don't you be the first one to imitate it? Give you the freshest go.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
I don't know if any of us were close.
Not even a little bit, but
it sounds like a marble bouncing down the stairs almost.
Right. It does.
Oh. Yeah, I think it's like very guttural. All right.
One day we need a professional bird caller to come on the show.
Just embarrass us forever.
Listen, right. Any ADHDers out there who know bird calls?
Yes, you're right.
There's going to be some duck callers out there.
We need some training,
Yeah.
I keep talking about that, how we should like secretly learn how to be like do a really good bird
like
call.
One bird.
Bust it out one day, but we never do.
That's my bird.
I can do the bird call with my hands. I can do that one.
Oh, you can?
Ooh.
Let's hear it.
Hold on. Piggy, stop. Nope, it's not going to work right now. I promise you I can usually do it.
I appreciate
the next episode.
I think you're lying.